If you're living in the UAE or Dubai and struggling with debt, whether it's credit cards, personal loans, or bounced checks, there's something you should know. There's now a legal path to restructure your personal debt and avoid jail time. But here's the thing, most people still have no idea this law even exists. And even if they've heard of it, they don't fully understand what it covers, who it helps, and how it actually works in real life. So in this video, I'm going to break down the UAE's new personal bankruptcy law, how it works, what it really means for people buried in debt, and whether it's actually designed to help residents or just protect banks. And before we begin, make sure to seek legal advice from a legal advisor for any of the stuff related in this video. So let's get right into it. So, quick context. Historically, the UAE has had a pretty tough approach to personal debt. Missed credit card payments, defaulted loans, bounced checks, all of these could land you in serious legal trouble and in some cases, even jail. That's one of the reasons why debt in the UAE has always carried this heavy stigma and why so many people would literally flee the country overnight if they were in over their heads. But in 2020, things started to shift a little. The UAE introduced a new insolvency law that created a framework for personal bankruptcy. At the time, it didn't get much attention because people were still dealing with the pandemic. But in the years since, the legal framework has slowly evolved, and now in 2025 it's clearer than ever. So here's how it works. Individuals with overwhelming debt finally have a legal structured way to deal with it. So what does this law actually do? Essentially, it gives you a legal option to either restructure your debt or go through a type of personal bankruptcy procedure. Let's say you've taken out a few personal loans, maxed out a couple of credit cards, maybe had a few checks bounced, and you genuinely can't pay it all back. Instead of getting arrested or just running from the problem, you can now submit a petition to the UAE courts and request formal debt protection. This protection freezes all legal action against you, so the banks can't come after you while the case is being processed. And most importantly, the court can step in to negotiate new payment terms with your creditors, terms that are actually realistic based on your income. That might mean reducing the total debt, extending your repayment period, or restructuring how interest is calculated. In some cases, it even allows for partial debt forgiveness, depending on your situation, of course. Now, I want to be clear. This is not a free pass. It's not like you can rack up a bunch of debt, walk into court, and have it all magically disappear. This is a legal process. You need to prove that your financial struggles are genuine. You need to submit documentation, bank statements, income records, proof of employment, liabilities, and everything in between. And once the court accepts your case, you'll be placed under supervision. If you violate the terms of your repayment plan or try to hide assets, your case can be thrown out immediately, and you'll be back to square one, potentially with criminal charges against you from the courts. But if you follow the process properly, it's a lifeline. And let's be honest, this kind of system is long overdue. The UAE has evolved rapidly over the last 2 decades, and with that has come more borrowing, more credit, and unfortunately, more people getting into trouble. So this new law brings the UAE closer to international norms where individuals can declare bankruptcy, restructure their debts, and move on with their lives instead of being trapped indefinitely. Let's talk about what kinds of debt this applies to. The law mainly covers personal financial obligations. So think personal loans, credit card debt, bounced checks issued in a personal capacity, and other unsecured liabilities. What it doesn't cover is business debt tied to a company license or criminal penalties outside of finance. So if you're a business owner and your debt is tied to your trade license, you'd still need to go through the UAE's corporate bankruptcy framework, which is a whole separate process. But for salaried employees, freelancers, or even retirees living in the UAE, this law is a game changer because for the first time, it gives you a path to deal with debt in a way that's structured, legal, and potentially life-changing. Now let's talk about the banks. One of the criticisms people have is that this law seems to be more about protecting banks than individuals. And I get where that's coming from. Banks in the UAE have historically had a lot of power when it comes to debt collection. But here's the reality. The new law doesn't erase your debt. It protects you from being arrested or legally harassed while a structured repayment plan is put in place for you. So banks still get their money, just not under the same unrealistic, high-pressure terms that caused the problem in the first place. Because who the hell is going to be able to pay money when they're inside the jail? And from a macro perspective, that's actually better for the economy. Think about it. If a large portion of the population is hiding from debt, living paycheck to paycheck, or afraid to even use a bank account, that's bad for long-term growth. A stable, transparent financial system where people can make mistakes, recover, and contribute again, that's much healthier in the long run. Now, I want to give you my personal take on this as someone who's been living in Dubai for years, like literally 24 years, and running a business here. I've seen a lot of people fall in debt, not because they were irresponsible, but because life happened. Medical emergencies, job losses, family issues, divorces, you name it. And the old system didn't leave much room for flexibility. You either paid or you suffered the consequences very harshly. So to see the UAE move toward a more forgiving, transparent legal process for personal debt, I would say that's a big step in the right direction. But I also think people need to be careful. Just because this law exists doesn't mean you go out there and be reckless with your credit. If anything, it should remind you how serious debt is. Yes, you can now go to court and seek protection, but do you really want to be in that situation? Do you really want to be under court supervision for 3 to 5 years explaining every dirham you spend? So the takeaway here isn't that debt is fine now. It's you have options if you're in trouble, but try not to get there in the first place. If you're watching this and you feel overwhelmed by your financial situation, my advice is speak to a financial advisor, talk to your bank, and if needed, consult a legal expert. And that is not me. Because now that this law exists, there's actually a roadmap for getting out of debt without ruining your life. So here are my final thoughts. The UAE's personal bankruptcy law is one of the most under-discussed but important legal reforms in recent years. It doesn't erase your debt, but it gives you the tools to manage it legally, fairly, and with dignity. It means you don't have to run, hide, or live in fear just because you made financial mistakes. It's a chance to reset and to rebuild and to get back on your feet. So let me know in the comments, do you think this law is actually helping people, or is it more about protecting banks and institutions out there? And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.